We have a sponsor for today. It's been amazing. I just want to say thank you to everybody who is sponsoring. Please carry on. It's a tremendous help to us, especially in this time. So please, if you can, sponsor the classes. If you'd like to sponsor a week, there's option to sponsor a week, an option to sponsor the month. Whatever it is that that works for you, please let us know, and we'll set you up with that possibility as well. Okay. I have today our class is done Le'ilui Nishmat Rachel Bat Sophie Shefie, and as well for Refuah Shelema for Rose Razel Bat Chava, Marco Mordechai Ben Jamile, Yaakov Ben Chaviva, Yitzchak Ben Lucy, Ezra Ben Senior, Chaya Batya Bat Levana by Jamie Sutton, Hazaku Baruch, and as well Rav Yoshua Yosef Ben Zeri for Rebbe Pinto for Refuah Shelema as well. If there's anyone that you'd like to kind of send out a message for, a beracha, whether it's for Refuah Shelema, for shidduch, for getting married, whatever it might be, all of those work, and of course we'd be happy to have the support. Hold on, let me just turn off my WhatsApp. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so now we shouldn't be disturbed by notifications. All right. So we are on our journey together to try and develop ourselves through the process of Musar, of studying and learning about ourselves and understanding how the human brain and psyche work. And often, a lot of times when we have that understanding of ourselves, that in and of itself is enough to be able to ensure that we are developing and growing. Just that awareness itself is key. It's so powerful when a person is seeing the way that they're acting, seeing the way that they're responding. Suddenly, sometimes that can be a switch. In fact, one of the greatest educational techniques, if you're trying to teach a child about how they seem like they're being selfish or how they're acting, a lot of times they cannot see it on themselves. And whenever I say kids, I mean code word for you guys and us, adults, because we are really not much more than sophisticated children, especially when it comes to our own vested interests, okay? So number one, the very first thing that you can do is show someone this is what you look like, okay? I remember once I had a friend who was always, no matter what they did at a restaurant, they would return the food. You know those types of people, you go out to lunch with them and they call over the waiter and they're like, I want a salad, but if you could have like the tomatoes on the side and like the lettuce on the side. Also, if you could put like the cucumbers on the side with a small amount of, what are you doing, man? Just go to the garden, pour, stuff on the ground and just eat like a cow. We are civilized people here. We've made a beautiful salad for you. Just shut up and eat it. Enjoy it, right? But this guy, no matter what, everything was always wrong, okay? And I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying you're perfect. Sometimes you have to, you gotta complain or you gotta send something back. Sometimes something is inedible. I remember once I was on a date with my wife, Hannah, in the Marriott room. I love telling this. And it was the fourth date, and I paid like $9 for a glass of Sprite. Okay, I'm not going drinking with my wife. I was a religious boy, all right? So I went up there, and what are you buying? $9 for Sprite. The guy brings me a glass of Sprite, and it's flat. So I just paid $9 for flat soda, okay? Maybe they're going to tell you because you turn around. Well, that's good then, because now the bubbles will get me less nauseous. Either way, so I'm sitting there with this flat soda, and I'm trying to think, like, how am I going to complain in front of this girl I'm dating? We've only gone out 3-4 times. And I called over the waiter, and the waiter comes over, and I said, excuse me, sir. He says, yes. I said, do I get the bubbles later? The waiter's like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I was like, just the bubbles, do I get them later? Because I didn't get them now, and I ordered a Sprite. But when I did it in a jokey way, so he laughed, I laughed, it wasn't a big deal. Didn't come off that way. But there's always somebody like that, so they're always complaining. They're like, I didn't order it medium rare, I ordered it medium rare, or medium rare. And it's like a difference, and then you can't satisfy them. So it's annoying to be at the table when the guy keeps calling over the waiter and they're rolling their eyes, and in the back, they're spitting in everybody's food. You know that that's happening, right? Because you're at the table with the, serial returner over here, okay? So what do you do? What do you do in such a situation? What do you do? Right? The only thing to do, you can't point it out to them because they're like, oh, I'm not eating food that's not cooked. I'm not eating a salad that's not deconstructed, right? So the answer is to wait until someone else is making a scene. And then you kind of look over there and you see the scene. And you're like, some people, and the guy's like, I know, right? Some people, they just don't know how to be in public. And, you could say to them gently, sometimes that's what you sound like. When someone can see something on somebody else, almost always it is more difficult for them to recognize a difficult truth, okay? Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because today's topic is a very difficult one. It's a difficult one on a human level. And I'll tell you maybe one of the reasons why it's so difficult. Some things are difficult because they just require a tremendous amount of effort. So as an example, you're in a sticky situation, it's hard to do the right thing, it's going to cost you a lot of money, it's going to cost you some friends, it's hard to do it because the decision is hard to make. But then there's certain things that actually, the reason why they're hard is not because of the difficulty involved in uprooting them, but rather because the person doesn't actually see like they're doing anything wrong. And as we said already, the only way a person can actually develop themselves as a human being is if they can see that there's some sort of a problem. When sometimes you speak to a husband and wife, and and each of them is saying, the other person, they're always complaining. And then the other person says, why you're complaining? Because you're complaining. So no one's taking responsibility. So there's no chance that this marriage is going to magically get better. They may as well get divorced now. Why? Because without ownership, without saying it's my problem, this is my issue, my cross to bear, pardon the mixed metaphor from another religion, right? Without bringing that in, there's no chance of you changing. And I want to say this. I think that this is very powerful, that the very first thing that we do this for on Yom Kippur, when we say sorry to God, we say Ashamnu. And everyone translates Ashamnu. Ashamnu means we are guilty. I like to say that actually everyone's getting it wrong. It doesn't mean we're guilty. Ashamnu means we're responsible. I'm responsible for this behavior. I'm responsible for the way that I'm acting. I'm responsible for what I'm bringing to a marriage. And you know what? It doesn't cut it to say that the other person is not doing well. The other person's not bringing it. That's their job. That's their problem. You want to know that you're giving your all? So the only way to give your all is to say, regardless of what the other person puts in. It's not tit for tat. I'm not taking, some sort of invisible scorecard. You did this, now I did that. You did that, now I did this. If you give me that, then I'll give you this. If you show me that, then I'll give you affection. If you're buying me presents, then I'm very loving. And if not, then, that's not how a marriage works. That's just not how a marriage works. That is literally some form of sophisticated, prostitution, where I give you love for a cost, for a price. My engagement in love is based on one thing and one thing only, that I want to be here. That's what it looks like. That's what my promise to stay in a marriage, to stay, be a parent to a child, or a child to a parent, to be a brother to a sister, or vice versa. My commitment here is to be there for you irrespective of the way you are for me. It's different when it comes to friends. Friends you choose. And you know what? Relationships actually shift over time. A person could be your best friend back in the day, then they undergo some sort of change, either in themselves or in their life, and things move and things change. And you know what? And that's okay. No one's telling you or that they have to stay the same person for the rest of their life. But with a friendship, a person is engaged on some level based on a mutual decision to stay here. Marriage is much more than that. Children is much more than that. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm saying all of this is because when a person is willing to recognize this thing, then suddenly, actually, they can engage in fixing it. I know that this is my job. I need to change it irrespective of anybody else. But when a feeling in someone's heart feels like I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm not hurting anybody, I'm not ruining anybody's day, I didn't steal anything. So what could be wrong with it? And in fact, one of the 10 commandments falls under this barometer, under this category. The Torah tells us, in the Ten Commandments, we learn, Lo tachmod, you shall not be jealous. Now, you think, I see you in your car, I see you in your beautiful house, I see you wearing your magnificent clothing, and I feel like I want that too. What's the problem? Didn't hurt anybody. I can't feel like I wish I had that suit. Can't feel like I wish I had, that car or that house or that wife or whatever else it is that I'm jealous of you. What's the problem? Who am I hurting? It's between me and me. The Torah tells you actually that's not the case. Because the nature of jealousy is such that actually it is destructive in the long term. And what I find fascinating is that there's many layers to the destruction of, the many layers to the destruction of jealousy. In fact, I want to quote to you the pasuk, what the pasuk says about jealousy. Shlomo HaMelech writes about jealousy, Rekev atzamot kin'ah. It's the decomposition of the bones of a person. The rotting of the bones is kin'ah. A jealousy that a person has, it could burn in someone's insides so strong that they could be willing to do the worst things in order to be able to settle the score, make a person feel a certain way, take a person down a couple of notches. We have some very good words that we like to use when it comes to these things which make us feel that. Saying I'm jealous to you, so therefore I'm gonna diss you or disgrace you is very different than saying I'm gonna take him down a couple of pegs. Take him down a couple of pegs sounds innocent, okay? But actually quite often it's not. They say that Rav Yisrael Salanter started the Musar movement. What was the Musar movement? The Musar movement is what we're learning about now. This idea that there was an intense focus and understanding that Judaism is like an iceberg. You're floating along in your boat in the ocean, and you see this little ice cap sticking out of the water. So after you Instagram it, and after you take your pictures, and it's very, very nice, right? You think, oh, that's so nice, I'll go there, we'll give it a little push, we'll watch it float away. That's not how icebergs work. Icebergs makes holes in the bottom of your boat. Go ask the Titanic. Why? Because 90% of your average iceberg is underneath the water. So what you're looking at is the tip of a mountain, not a floating ice cap, okay? So that nature, Judaism is exactly like an iceberg. 10% of the iceberg is above the water, above the surface, and 90% is beneath. Judaism is identical. So even though there's 613 mitzvot, the vast majority of the Jews' world does not exist above the surface, outside of the human being. It exists inside them. The very first commandment, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. What is that? That's a commandment to believe. Where does that live? Here. Honor your parents. Where does that live? The feeling of honor and respect. Here, inside. Now there's practical applications of many of the internal elements. But when people tell me I'm exhausted from Judaism, it's not giving me what I want. It's weighing down on me. Often I'll tell them that's because you're only dealing with the external thing. So let me explain what that means, okay? Anyone here who's ever gone to a gym will tell you that if you're lifting a very heavy, barbell, you reach down to the floor, what do? You try and pick it up. Do you pick it up just using your arms? Absolutely not. You use the biggest muscle in the human being, which is glutamus maximus, your fat abo, okay? The muscles in your backside are very strong. So you bend your knees, you bend down, and you use your hips, your legs. They're very strong muscles as compared to just try and measure your hip to your forearm. It's a twig compared to your legs, even if you skip leg day, okay? So what do? You lift with your back, huge muscles, your backside, your hips, yeah? And your trunks. You're picking up, and as you lift, now you can kind of go from here, with your arms. But life is like that. If all of the effort of Judaism is in the hands, is in the deeds, it's going to exhaust you. But if the driving force comes from the core of a person, so as an example, if you need to do 1,000,000 things for your father, and it's so hard and it's so difficult, eventually you get tired. But you see someone doing everything for their dad, and they're wheeling them to shul, and they're carrying them up to the Sefer Torah, and you say, wow, it's amazing how you treat your father. How do you do that? And the person says, what do you mean? I love my dad. My dad took me to shul since I was a kid. My dad saved me when I was being bullied in school. My dad intervened and helped me when my marriage was on the rocks. How could I not be with him now? So one person is focusing on the inside out version of Judaism, and one person is focusing on the outside in. The outside in is driven by deed, and then that deed needs to support the creed. The flip side is actually how Musar-driven Judaism actually looks like. The creed, the inside, the human intellect, the heart, that drives action. And every one of us knows that when it comes to sports and you want to find a superstar who's going to take you to the championship, it's the heart of a champion. It's the mental focus. I don't know if any of you have seen this, The Last Dance of Michael Jordan. For me, it's like an amazing trip down memory lane. You know, remembering basketball of my youth. Back in the day, growing up, we were so involved in basketball. It was like the sport for us. Time went on, I got older, I couldn't follow the games anymore. You go to London, there's so many games. Football was the only sport I could follow from London because there's only 16 games. It was easy to follow. Basketball, 70 plus games, and then the finals, and then they're all in the middle of the night. I couldn't keep up with it. But this was about Jordan going all the distance. And you know what everybody says again and 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 again? He had remarkable athletic ability. But what made Jordan the best to ever play the game, was the fact that his heart was the heart of a champion. He couldn't bear to lose. And anything that spoke to him or made him feel like he was anything but the biggest champion, the best in the world, it lit a fire underneath him that made him, push himself when he was sick, when he was ill, when his foot was broken, when the team didn't have enough players. That is the nature of inside-out Judaism versus outside-in. So they asked Rabbi Yisrael Salanter once, they said, what was it that made you start the Musar movement? And he explained something that I found fascinating. There was a certain village where you had a lot of the old money people, all the people who were the hotsy-totsy guys, the guys that were in all these clubs. On the way to my synagogue, there's a club called Club Macanudo. I think I'm pronouncing it right, okay? And in this club, it's like a cigar club. And so I don't smoke cigars, never smoked anything in my entire life, including a cigarette, okay? So it doesn't hold any sway for me. So someone said to me, Rabbi, I'd love to have a chat. Why don't we go to Club Macanudo? I'm a member. I was like, what does that mean you're a member? Like, what do they have there? Is it a gym, a swimming pool? He's like, no, you go there, and you spend I think it's like $7,500 to get into the club. And then for $8,000, then you're a member. And then they give you they allow you the privilege of buying cigars from them. I was like, I'm sorry, these things sometimes they're cultural. I just don't understand the pull at all. And I can think of nothing worse than being in a room with a ton of smoke, being unable to breathe. So thank you very much. But if we're gonna meet, we're not gonna meet there. We can meet in my office. All right. You can bring your cigar if you hold it out the window. All right. My window doesn't open, so therefore I was really telling him he couldn't bring it. Either way, point is, all right. So you're in a place like that. You feel like a rich man. So I don't know. You guys remember that song? Oh, if I was a rich man. Yeah, ba 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 ba. And then he goes on and he gives a whole list of things that he would do. But what I always found interesting about that song is that it was what a poor man thought a rich man would do. You got that? What a poor man thought a rich man would do. It was through the lens of a poor man. I don't think the poor man would be like, if I was a rich man, I would give Club Macanudo $7,500 so that I could then spend more money on their cigars. He doesn't think that way. But when you're a rich person, there's something that feels really good about being exclusive. So I used to fly a lot, and eventually you get enough points when you're flying back and forth from England to all the places I was speaking around the world. I travel much less now in my new job, but back then I was traveling a lot. So you get gold a gold card, and they let you into these, the lounge when you fly, or whatever the case might be. So here I am, economy ticket man, sitting in the first class lounge with everybody else. And they're like, oh, where are you going? And then you tell them you're sitting in economy, and you could see the interest like just drain from their face. Like, oh, my favorite seat is B7 because you don't hear the engines and you don't have to see the people from cattle class. Like, you know what I mean? It's amazing. It was amazing. And then I remember once going to an airport where they had, like where you go to the gate and then there's like just seats, like seats like lining the walls. So what they had done is they took like, the little stretchy things that they have in the airport that if you have kids, the kids always flip it up and it goes, those guys, right? So they've had this, they just basically stretched the thing in between like some random chairs. And they were like, this is the first class section. And I was like, it's the same seat. This is the same seats. There's no difference between these seats. They're both waiting in the airline terminal right before the plane. But yet you could see, as soon as she said, first class passengers can sit here on this side of the tape, everyone was like, oh, I'm a first class passenger. Right? It was amazing. The desire to feel different or better than somebody else is very, very powerful. So it was a village, and that had like all of these wealthy people that loved that feeling. And then one day, the shoemaker, God bless him, poor his whole life, Yankel, he wins the lottery. Overnight, he's a wealthy man. Overnight. Amazing. He decides, you know what? It's time. I've got money. Got to marry off my daughters. Now I have money for a dowry. I could get them a good husband, a nice man, a well-learned guy, etc., etc. He offers the dowry. He finds an amazing son-in-law who he's going to support them for the first 5 years of their life. They'll study Torah. They'll set up their home. They'll have some children, etc., etc. God bless. All right, amazing. What happens after time goes by? They decide they're going to plan the wedding. Someone wants to say hi. Say hi. Yeah? Everyone thinks she was banned from the other kids' Zooms, because the schools don't like it when siblings come in. I'm trying to figure out how schools don't understand the current situation. You have a little kid, they're running in. This is not something that you could stop. Just get on the bus. Deal with it. Anyway, tachlis, like they say. The guy decides, you know what? I'm going to make a wedding now. I'm a rich man. I got a nice son-in-law. I'm going to make it in the nice hall in the center of town, a place where all the rich people go. Anyway, Club Macanudo was all abuzz with the scandalous news that Yankel was now, elbowing in on their rarefied air. Like, you know what I mean? He didn't deserve to be with them. He was a lotto winner. He was new to the club. He thinks he could just buy his way in. Anyway, one of the guys says, you know what? I'm going to show him. On the night of the wedding, everybody's beautiful. The Khatan walks up. Comes the Kala. The Kala is walking with her father, with Yankel and his wife. They get under the chuppah, and the chuppah is about to start, and the music dies down, and there's absolute silence. All of a sudden, you hear a voice from the back of the room say, Yankel, Yankel! Who is it? One of the wealthiest men in town. He's walking quick. Everyone turns around. Yankel included turns around. The rabbi stops the ceremony. What's going on? The man reaches down, takes off his shoe, and says, how much would it cost to fix my heel, Yankel? In front of 1,000 people. Reminding him, smashing him down, to remember that he's just a lowly shoemaker. The embarrassment is so strong. The shock was so strong. Yankel, on the spot, under the chuppah of his daughter, collapses, has a massive heart attack, and dies. Rav Yisrael Salanter heard the story, and he was so, not just disillusioned, but upset, disappointed in his people, that this is where people could be, the jealousy could be, that someone could be now part of my gang because something good happened to him. I know people like this all the time. They'll use a guy's nickname from when he was a kid to try and put him in his place, even though he's done really well. It's despicable. Rav Yisrael Salanter started the Mussar movement because of that one story. Okay, this is the power of a story in the hands of someone who's motivated to let life be different, to make a difference in the world around them. So when I look at the world of kinah, of jealousy, I think to myself, what? It's going to rot somebody's, but what's it going to do already? Who cares? Nobody knows that I'm jealous, that I'm scrolling through their pictures, ogling their vacation. Besides the fact that they're also ogling yours and they think your life is better and you think their life is better. Right? Yeah? Besides for that, but who am I hurting? I think in some ways, Instagram is built on the midah of kin'ah, of jealousy. It's built to find the things that you like. You looked at 10 pictures of a woman in a nice red dress, it's going to show you a lot of pictures of a woman in a nice red dress. You looked at 15 pictures of a Ferrari, the algorithm will serve up one Ferrari after the next. It's built to tap into the most base midot of man. And the irony is, you're clicking like, but you're really saying, oh, I wish I had it. Love that. Oh, it's amazing. I want that. Facebook is the same. Thank you, Life Changer. Very, very similar. Okay? So we think to ourselves, what's the damage? But the answer is it's a tremendous damage because it rots us from the inside. It makes us look at that person negatively and cynically. This guy never had a beef or a bone to pick with Yankel until Yankel was in his space. Now Yankel's in his space, now I need to cut him in half. Alright? Rekev atzmot kina. And I want to give you atzmot kina. I want to give you the strongest example of that. And then we'll move to the flyer that I've used to advertise our class. Okay? In Tanakh we read about the most unbelievable story. A story that you would believe was a fable if it was not written specifically in the Pesukim. Shlomo HaMelech becomes a king at a very tender age. He becomes king at 12 years old. Alright? David HaMelech dies. David has at least two sons that are strong, powerful leaders. And he chooses instead the son of Bathsheba, Shlomo HaMelech. And he's supposed to be the continuation of the Davidic dynasty of kings. Okay? Dynasty in England, dynasty over here, right? It's just such a tragic thing that when they say dynasty, they're talking about their kings. And when we say it, we're talking about a duck. Either way, point is, the fascinating thing to me is what happens next. Shlomo HaMelech needs to consolidate the people. They need to get behind him. They need to recognize that he's special. But he has a tremendous gift. What's his gift? His gift is that he was blessed with godly and divine wisdom. A wisdom that would be unmatched by any human ever. Shlomo HaMelech, wisest of all men. Why? Because he's given a chance to choose if he wants, incredible power, money, etc., etc., or honor, or does he want wisdom? Shlomo HaMelech wants wisdom. God says, you ask for that, I'm going to give you all three. Which is the first sign of his wisdom, that he chose wisdom, okay? So then the Pasuk tells us something fascinating. He's sitting on his throne. Everybody's there in front of the 12-year-old king. In walk two women. I mean, you can't believe this. Two women fighting over a baby. One woman, God bless her, she was nursing her baby at night in bed. She rolled over her baby, and the baby was suffocated to death. Hazi, terrible story. There's another woman in the house, also has a baby. Now the woman with the dead baby says to the woman with the live baby, this dead baby is yours. That live baby is mine. Why you take my baby? They come in holding this baby. The first woman says, the living child is mine and yours is dead. The second woman says, no, yours is dead and mine is alive. People look at the king. Okay, how's he going to deal with this one? They didn't have, like the tag from the hospital back then. They didn't put the stamp from Chuck E. Cheese on the kid and on the mom. How's he going to figure this out? And Shlomo HaMelech earns the respect of the entire people. That's what the pasuk says. Based on this specific case, what does he do? He calls, he repeats what they say to the crowd. He said, so you're saying that the living baby is yours and hers is dead, and you're saying that her baby is dead and yours is alive. They say yes. He says, okay, no problem. Someone go get me a sword, cut the baby in half, and give half to one and half to the other. The first lady said, the second lady says, no way. What are you talking about? Sorry, the second lady who said, in this conversation, what does she say? She says, absolutely, that sounds fair to me. I'll have half a baby. Okay? Cut in half. The first lady says, what are you talking about? I'd rather you have the baby and the baby stays alive. Shlomo HaMelech says, give the baby to that woman. Why? Because it is a true mother that would only want the best for her child. Everyone's like. The Sifarim ask a piercing question. All right? First of all, Shlomo HaMelech, he's staking his reputation on this. I mean, I'm kind of imagining that in most scenarios, most women were going to say, don't cut the baby in half. I don't think that there's ever like a sentence that gets said in hospitals or in court cases, which is like, yes, I accept your verdict, cut the baby in half. Like, that's not a sentence you hear ever. So why did Shlomo, why was he willing to roll the dice, to gamble with his reputation? What if the first woman, the woman who said, your child is dead and my child is alive, what if she wouldn't have bet? What if she wouldn't have said, okay? What if she would have said, cutting the baby in half is never the right solution? And the answer is fascinating. And it speaks deep to the human psyche, how we are built. The Lego pieces that put together the way humans react and we emote. Listen to this. Shlomo HaMelech repeated what the women said. What was he trying to drive home? He wanted everyone in the courtroom to hear the difference between one woman and the other. They're effectively saying the same thing. My baby is alive and your baby is dead. But they didn't say it the same. One woman said, my baby's alive and your baby's dead. And the other one said, your baby's dead and my baby's alive. What was the driving force in each one of these women's complaint or claim to the court? One woman is saying, my baby's alive, I want my baby. The other woman is saying, your baby's dead. That's what she put first. Now, we are aware in Judaism of this idea that there are two types of jealousies. There are two types of fire. The fires of jealousy, and that's what the sign, the flyer that we sent out was. There's a type of jealousy that destroys, that ruins people. And there's a type of jealousy actually that's very powerful and it really helps. It builds people tremendously. In fact, it even has a name in Judaism. It's called Kinat Sofrim Tarbeh Chokhmah. The jealousy of wise men increases Chokhmah. You look at that guy and you say, wow, unbelievable. He finished the Masechet. Fantastic. We have Rabbi Friedman. He's going through a whole Masechet. There's a bunch of guys who sit and learn every morning. You could find the link if you want in the flyers that we send out. Every morning he sits and learns with the guys and they're going to finish straight an entire Masechet de Gemara. Why? A little bit each day. Amazing. Fantastic, right? Same thing. What's it called? Daf Yomi. Same idea. There's a project that we have as well where a person signs up to give $1 a day to tzedakah. It's nothing. But what you don't realize is $1. By the end of the year, it's $365. 100 people in the synagogue sign up to $1 a day. That's $365,000 if 1,000 people sign up. Okay? That's not very far to imagine that you could get that many people to sign up to something. That's something small, incremental things, and they make a huge difference. So, Kinat Sofrim, if I say, it's a great idea, I want to do that. What happens? More people are more learned in the world. If you hear that I'm giving that tzedakah, now you want to give it. So more people are now giving tzedakah because you're jealous of my good deed. That's such a nice idea. So beautiful. Kinat sofrim tarbe chokhmah. However, sometimes it's difficult to tell which is which. When a jealousy is positive or negative. So as an example, I want you to think back to a role model that motivated you. You know, you knew someone who was young, they were killing it in business, and you think, you know what? I want to be like that. I want to be like Mike. Jealousy, isn't it? But that jealousy can make you improve. It could drive you to do good things. But how do you discern if it was actually good or not? How do you discern if that jealousy is actually something which is positive or negative? It might be that you're driven now to make a lot of money, and now you're making a lot of money. But who said that that's positive? If the fact that you're doing it is because someone else is doing it, that might not be healthy at all. So sometimes it sounds like one sounds like the other. You hear that someone else got their kid into a private school that costs a lot of money. You say, oh, I have to put my kid there. Now, you could tell yourself it's because there's more Jewish studies there than in public school, but actually it's really just a status thing. How do you know? Because we lie to ourselves all the time. How do you know the difference? How do you know if a good motivation is coming from a positive place or a negative place? If it's going to take you towards health or away from it? Is it the rotting of the bones, or is it the kinat sofrim tarbe chokhmah, though the jealousy of the wise engenders more wisdom? And Shlomo HaMelech says there's a simple trick. Ask yourself, what is the comforting thought? Is the comforting thought, I would like that as well? Or is the comforting thought, if I can't have it, I kind of wish that they didn't have it either? You know, someone tells you about something, a vacation they're going on, a place that they're visiting, a job that they got, and you're like, oh, don't rub it in. Like you'd be happier if they were miserable with you. If the comforting thought is, like the second woman starts off by saying, your baby's dead. The way I achieve that you also don't have a baby is by kind of taking your baby away from you. But what drives my heart here in this pain is to witness you having something that I can't have. It's not that I don't have it, it's that you have it and I don't have it. Shlomo HaMelech therefore wasn't taking a risk, because he'd heard and he'd reiterated to everyone else in the court, listen to what they're saying. This one is focusing on life and this one is focusing on death. So I'll ask that question again. Have you ever wondered why people love to see celebrities fail? Yeah? When you see a celebrity kind of have a gaffe, they say the wrong thing, or they have some sort of, hopefully, tziniut, wardrobe malfunction, or, they, fall on the steps, of the White House, or on, going to get an award, and it was like, oh, this is amazing, did you see it now, look at that. So, what do we love about that? Why do those things go viral? Because we can't wait to see someone that seems to have it all fall. Figuratively and literally. We can't wait for it. We're that second woman. Your baby's dead. That's rekev atzamot kin'ah. Would I feel happier if they didn't have it as well? Why? That is completely immaterial to whether you'll have it. Now, I remember reading in a book, they were making some observations about jealousy. And sometimes as a rabbi, I hear something that the book, a sefer is teaching, and I look at it and I'm like, that's not right, that's wrong. Or, that's kind of right, but misses the point. So I want to give you an example of that second one. Kind of right, but misses the point. In this book, it wrote that When you look at somebody else and you see something that they have, and it looks great. You see a dress on someone, they look like $1 million, and you think, I wish I had that. Jealousy creeps into our heart, makes us see the person cynically, because now that they've got one up, we've got to knock them down. I want that. So they said, what should you do? Think in your head. Yes, it looks great on them, but who said it would look good on me? Maybe it wouldn't fall in the right way. As a father of 5 daughters, I have learned more than I care to know about how dresses are supposed to fit. For a guy, you're a size 42, you're a size 42. You know what I mean? You go pick up a suit, it's very simple. You could send someone to pick up a suit for you. I frequently will buy suits in the mail, no problem, okay? But I've heard this line, which I never really... This dress doesn't hit me in the right places. I don't even know what this means, okay? No, but it doesn't make me look good. So the woman wrote that when you see someone who has a beautiful dress, think to yourself, it looks great on them. But you know what? It wouldn't look great on me. It wouldn't be, maybe it would make me look less attractive. And I thought to myself, that's the most rubbish advice. Because dealing with jealousy that way is to completely miss the point. Pardon the double negative here. You're not jealous of someone because it wouldn't look good on you. You're not jealous of someone because you don't begrudge someone else happiness. You're not jealous of someone else because you are happy with what you have. To say that I'm not a want it because you know what? It wouldn't be great for me? No. Even if it would be great for you, even if you'd love it and it would fit you perfectly like a glove, if you don't have it, maybe there's a reason why you don't have it. Maybe you don't need it. Not because it wouldn't look good, in which case, this is a free no jealousy zone because I have nothing to be jealous of. That's missing the point. The Pasuk, the Mishnah says, Edzehu Ashir, who is wealthy, who is a wealthy person? Hasameach b'chelko. He who rejoices b'chelko in his lot. Everybody here knows this idea. We've all heard it before. Who is wealthy? He who rejoices in his lot. Okay? And I always loved the nuanced usage of the word. What does it say? It says sameach b'chelko. It doesn't say misameach bebeto, in his house. Sameach with his clothes. Sameach beparnasato. Sameach beishto. It says sameach b'chelko, in his portion. Now, what's interesting about that word, and in Hebrew in general, which is why I cannot stress enough and ask enough to everybody to take lessons to learn how to read and speak Hebrew. The Torah's lessons are so much more powerful when you understand them in their native language, okay? The word chelko means my portion, but a chelek also means like a piece of something, okay? Like not the whole thing, my piece. Sameach b'chelko, my piece of the pie, my part. I can't have it all, and I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to have a piece. And what do I want? I want my piece. The Mussar greats used to say that if everyone would take their baggage and put it on the table, even though yours looks much more attractive from across the room, but if we put our bags on the table and everyone would open up and look in the bags of the other, you know what would happen at the end of 10 minutes? We'd wind up picking up our own bag instead of picking up or wanting anyone else's. So I want to share with you an unbelievable story about this. There was a woman who got married at the same time as her sister. So, sisters can sometimes be very competitive. It's part of the evolutionary process. Ideation in children is very important. It's very healthy, and part of the way that children create their own personas and develop who they are is by comparing and contrasting themselves with brothers and sisters. That's how they develop. Now, the challenge is in the mind of a child as they're developing their understanding of themselves by figuring out, hey, they're happy like this, I'm happy in this. They like math, I like art. They like this, I like that. Is not to mix up comparing and contrasting with making something better or worse. So as an example, if you were to compare and contrast a basketball to a baseball, you might say one is harder and one is denser and one is, but if you say one's bigger, in the language of children, sometimes that, like a taller kid is better off. I wish I was tall. That's not how the world works. Like, you know what I mean? In the end, it doesn't actually matter all that much if you're the tallest in your class. If you could run the fastest when you're a child, the most important thing. Yeah, nobody beats me in a race. Like, no one ever asked that. Like, you're applying for a job at Goldman Sachs. They're like, okay, first person to the water cooler wins. That's not how life, okay. Who wants to get married? Okay, whoever gets to the chuppah first gets the girl. That's not what happens, okay? But as a child, these things are very important. And they think if I'm slower and he's faster, then I'm worse and he's better. The danger is where the idea of compare and contrast comes to an idea of better and worse as opposed to type A or type B. Okay? So a lot of times you have sisters very competitive, and this family was no different. They got married the same time, and one person's looking at the other one's swanny, What did they, for the Ashkenazim, that's like the party that they make, where they give out all the various jewelry or whatever the family is going to buy for the bride or for the groom, whatever. And they exchange gifts that they give. So one sister's looking at what she get, how'd she get it, the candlesticks and the things and the jewelry and the earrings. How big is her ring? Oh, show me the ring. Some people, when they show you the ring, they have to do that. And some people, they show you the ring, they're like, yeah, could you get it? Could you get it all in the frame? Could you get it? Is it all in the frame? Right? So it's very different. And one married very wealthy, and one married, hardworking, great husband, la 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 la. Time goes on, they build families, and unfortunately, the one sister was a little tone deaf. She didn't quite get it because she never had any troubles. Growing up, mommy and dad took care of everything. Getting married, now her husband took care of everything, and never lacked for anything. So she was always, unfortunately, that sister that would call and say, again, not intending, to be hurtful, but like, oh my God, I got the cutest matching outfits for the twins. Oh, where'd you get them from? Oh, I bought them, amazing sale in Bergdorf's. Yeah, they were like 80% off, $1,000 each, right? And and the other sister's like, why are you calling me? Like, what do you want from? I'm buying my stuff in Walmart. Like, what do you want from her? Why are you telling me this? But the girl, she genuinely was having a conversation with her sister. Anyway, things marched on. They got older, bigger kids, la la la, and then finally, when it was a particularly difficult time, when her husband, had taken a pay cut, when they weren't making ends meet. And she had to let go of her cleaning lady, and she's sitting on the floor, scrubbing the floor, before Passover or whatever. The sister calls and she says, you guys should totally join us. This year we're going to Miami instead of Mexico, instead of wherever. You should totally come. It'll be so nice. Why don't you come? Bring the family. It'll be great. You deserve it. You deserve it, girl. Come on. And she's thinking, we're getting $50,000. What is this girl talking about? But it hit her hard. For the first time in her life, it wasn't just annoying, it was hurtful. And she's sitting there on the floor, hearing about the sister asking if she wants to go away to Miami. You know what, we thought we would invite you this year to join us because, Miami is much closer, and we know you don't fly very far. Yeah, I don't fly far because far flights are more expensive. It ate her up, and she's sitting there on the floor, and she starts crying. She's crying into her bucket, her Cinderella bucket of suds that she's scrubbing the floor before Pesach. Husband comes home, he sees his wife is crying on the floor, breaks his heart. What's the matter? He sits down on the floor with her. She says, I can't believe it. It's so hurtful. I can't. She has everything going for her and everything. Now, and what do we have, and all the things that we need to worry about, and the marrying off the kids and na. And they're worrying which program they're gonna grace with their presence this year. It's just not fair. Anyway, she's sitting there crying. Anyway, the husband walks in 2 minutes later, and his face is white. And he says, your sister's on the phone. She wants to talk to you. And the wife is doing that thing. I don't know if you guys are married. You know, that thing. When you like signal quietly, you frantically, without making any noise, you make as much of a no as you could possibly. You're doing all this sign, don't bring the phone. And he just takes the phone and just puts it by her ear. She's like, in the best voice she can muster, she's like, hey, sister, what's going on? And she can just hear her sister's crying on the other side of the phone. She says, I called earlier and I hated myself for the phone call. And she's thinking, oh, she finally got it, right? She gets it. And she says, I hated myself. I was trying to tell you, but I couldn't get it out. We're not going to Mexico this year. We're going to Miami instead because the hospital that could potentially give the best treatment to my daughter is in Miami. And she was just diagnosed with cancer. And that's why Pesach this year we're going to Miami. It's not really about the program. I only called you to ask you if you'd come to Miami because I was hoping that there would be somebody there to support me through this difficult time. I remember reading the story. And do you know how a story just like a storyline just goes one way until you're like, hold on a second. Anyone ever do that? Like all of a sudden you just think, you're like, what? No, wait, what? Right? And I'm thinking, oh, I know how this story ends, right? And actually it did end that way. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, maybe we'll just try and fly out for a couple days and be with you. I don't think we could be there for a program. We can't really afford that. But of course, whatever you need, give us the kids. You got it, no problem. Right? She hangs up and she says, she says to her husband, so lucky. Everybody in our family is healthy. Here I am wishing for that person's life, for that person's bag, but I didn't know it was in that person's bag. Lovely. And then my brain did a 180-degree turn. No! This is the psycho woman. The psycho woman from Shlomo HaMelech, who is now happier because her niece has cancer. Are you hearing me? That is rekev atzamot kina. That is the rotting of the internal human being that feels on some sick level happy that someone else is suffering because finally I feel good about mine. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, in Yiddish there's a great word. It's called fargin. You know what fargin means? Means before you have gin. No, fargin means before you look at someone, you see that they've got something, and you're happy. You can give that to them. You can be happy for them with what they have without playing games in your head and thinking, you know what? I can be happy for them because maybe someone in the family has cancer. It's not how it works. I can be happy for you with nothing wrong. And to me, I think this idea of musar, of working on the human, to be able to actually be present and authentically glad for somebody else, to authentically feel their pain. And in our immediate child brain, when we compare and contrast our own life to theirs, we can do that without taking it to a better, worse paradigm and leave it at a compare-contrast paradigm. I'm scrubbing the floor, you're in a hotel, so we are different. That doesn't mean that your life is better. I think many people will tell you that they found a tremendous joy in preparing for Pesach this year for the first time in a long time. They didn't have waiters waiting on them, even if they were used to going away for Passover. They didn't have, but they had a Seder that was very, and you know what? Comparing and contrast, which is better, which is worse, leave that out. What was beautiful and what was good in my experience without attempting to measure it vis-a-vis, something else. Now, I want to, if I can, just share one last point, all right? There was a rabbi whose name was Rabbi David Kviat. And he was approached by a rabbi, Rabbi Pruzansky, who writes some fantastic books. And I read that Rabbi Pruzansky saw his rabbi, and he sees him walking, and he says, "Look, Rabbi, I have a question for you. The Talmud tells us in Sanhedrin that every person on earth is supposed to say, Bishvili nivra ha'olam." You know what that means? It means the world was created for me. That's what that means. Every person is supposed to say this. Where do we learn this from? The Talmud says, "Mipnei ma nivra ha'adam yechidi." How come man was created alone? Why didn't God make man and woman together so that they could just be born into an existence where they had each other? Why didn't God make the world with 100,000 people, and they could have their first city immediately, right? What was the reason for that? The reason is so that every person on earth will say, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created for me. Because look, there was a time when God created the world for one person. The world was created for me. Many different interpretations here. But he asked his rabbi, he said, "I don't know, Rabbi, that sounds particularly arrogant." Right? Particularly arrogant, doesn't it? The world was created for me. And Rabbi Kviat smiled, and he gave him a chidush, a novel approach. He said, maybe the difference is whether you read it plain, straight, or with a question mark. Bishvili nivra ha'olam. The world was made for me. God made the world for me, the trees, the mountains, the sun, the sand, the stores, the cars. The world was created for me. I am worth creating a world for. The question changes the dynamic completely. That question mark serves as a challenge to everybody to say, I have to up my game so that I'm worth having had the world be created for me. And the reason why I share that is because if God once upon a time created a world and there was only one person in it, so that's not our experience. So if that was the lesson, why didn't God just create infinite worlds with one person in them? Now I know that sounds like a strange question to ask, but when you think of the vast expanses of space, God has enough space. Ask Elon Musk, okay? There's enough planets out there. Why didn't God create a world for each person? And the answer is he did. Your world has its mountains and its peaks and its valleys. It has its ups and its downs, and they were designed specifically for you. We just have one chance, one opportunity back in time to be able to see that idea play out. But now that we are here, my world is so unique because it has this particular amount of financial trouble. Financial trouble is not a bad thing. I mean, if you're starving to death, it's terrible. But actually, if you look at the wealthiest people alive today, none of them were wealthy as children. Is that not fascinating? That's not a mistake. Because you want your child to have that hunger and that entrepreneurship and that creativity. It gets very difficult when the kid doesn't need to have creativity or hunger. It's very difficult for a child not to feel entitled if he's always had everything. So I have the exact amount in my life of financial struggle that I need. I have it. And I've had it my whole life. And I have exactly the type of mother that I'm supposed to have. Exactly the amount of overbearing or underbearing. Exactly the amount of involved or uninvolved as I personally need to be able to grow. Some people need someone more involved. Some people need someone less involved. And God says, here you go. He curates each soul and plants the soul in that family and says, your dad and your mom. You know, again, I refer you back once more to, to Michael Jordan. You know, this is a guy who, his greatness is fueled by his loss. There's nothing to talk about. You know, what moves him more than anything is the fact that he gets cut from a team as a child. They won't let him play. He's not good enough. That makes him best. His father's murdered. He wants to win for his dad. That makes him best. I'm not saying that you choose to have your father pass away so that you can win more basketball games. God forbid. But what I'm saying is, what you need to succeed, to thrive to the best of your abilities is prepared for you. Now you have a choice as to whether or not to allow those difficult things to crush you or to turn you into something special. You know, I love this idea that in Judaism we talk about Yikara hi mipininim. The best wife, she's more precious than pearls. And why more precious than pearls? Because the nature of a pearl is that it is created because a grain of sand gets into the clam and it starts to irritate this living, breathing animal, this living, breathing thing, okay? I don't know if it's a crustacean. I think that's probably what it is. Some of you who are biology majors might be able to help us, or marine biologists. I think it's a crustacean, okay? In this clam, inside, this little thing which is causing irritation, eventually over time, is created, is developed into something incredibly beautiful. So when a person is experiencing kin'ah and they're saying, I want what they've got, it's not just that you don't want what they have and dampen that and rejoice for them because you know what? They probably have bad things in their basket too. Forget that. That's how a lower person deals with kin'ah. The higher person deals with kin'ah and says, I have what I need for me. What is that? What do they have to do with me at all? It's not like a relevant conversation. What they have and what I have is not, the two things are not they're not combined, they're mutually exclusive to the nth degree. So I think a big part of this is every person should be saying, Bishvili nivra olam, what is my part, my chelik, my piece, if you will, of the puzzle, of the pie, of the pizza. And if a person is doing that, then suddenly these feelings of jealousy, they get dampened. And I recognize that actually this fear that I have, that you should be better than me, and the need that I have, therefore, to turn you or tear you down when you're rising up, it actually kind of dissipates a little bit. Because I see that about me, and I realize that you having that is not going to deal with the problems that I have, or the feelings of inferiority that I have. So when a person is trying to figure out if their kin'ah, if their jealousy is positive, constructive, or negative, if it is something that will help build you and motivate you to do more, or if it will actually tear you down and rot you away from the inside, okay? If that's how that works, then actually you start to realize, let's listen closely. What do I really want? Do I want to have it? Or do I want them not to have it? So someone said, Rabbi, I don't know. I kind of feel like I want to have it, and I don't mind if they have it. But like, if they have it, I want it. I don't know if which one is my motivation. So I gave them the following thought experiment. I said, imagine now you have what they have, and then they get an upgrade. Are you upset? Then it really wasn't about what they had. It's about being number one. It's about not having anyone have anything more than you in this sphere, in this part. But the Mishnah is telling you, Sameach b'chelko. There's a million different pieces to this puzzle. And he maybe has more than you here, but what about here? Like if you could choose your friend's money, but then you'd have to have your friend's marriage. If you could choose your friend's money or your friend's looks, but you'd have to have your friend's health, or your friend's relationship with their children, or your friend's spirituality, or your friend's lack of any sort of drive in life. Would you choose the whole, or do you only want the part? Hasameach b'chelko. I think that's the secret there. Well, thank you so much for listening. We're going to see everybody hopefully soon, and I think if I can, if there's anyone here that knows anyone that would like to invest in a new idea, we have a really new idea. I'll share with you the idea and tell me if there's anyone who knows someone that would like to do it. Every night I would put my kids to bed and I would read them a story. I would read them a story initially, and eventually I thought, it's much more personal if I make up a story. So I'd ask the kids, what name, is it a hippo? Which animal? And they would say, I would like a hippo, and then I would say, what's the hippo's name? And they would choose the name, and I would make up a story every night for them. Every night I was put in the bed, and eventually I started recording some of them. A little while back, someone found out I was doing this, and they actually asked me. They turned it into a storybook and a game where you could play. It's an app. You could play these stories to your kids. It has like some questions on the stories because each of them have life lessons that I was trying to impart to my kids. So he said this could go out to thousands and thousands of children, teach them about bullying, about healthy eating habits, about jealousy, about anger, about all these different kinds of things. So if you know anyone that would like to sponsor a project like that, turning these stories into the magnificent, eventually there'll be like little books as well that you could either buy or whatever. But they're initially going to be like an app where you literally, you have the phone out and I'm reading you the story and you're going through all the. It's beautiful. If there's someone that would like to do that project, it's an interesting off the beaten path one, but educating children using non-threatening ideas, what we're talking about, musar, and getting that in there when they're young. I think that's a very powerful idea and a beautiful zechut. If there's someone that would like to do that, I think there's about 10 stories they want to do. It costs them about $2,000 to illustrate each story and turn it into an app and have questions and build games around it. That the kids could do. So you could have it and they'll put a name on it, Le'ilui Nishmat or Refuah Shlema or whatever. If that interests anyone, let us know. You want to do all of it, some of it, let us know. It's another interesting way. We're always trying to look for new ways to inspire the Jewish people, the community. And this is a way of kind of teaching the youngest of kids, the most impressionable of minds. Hazaku Baruch for listening in, everybody. Thanks for joining us each week. Spread it around, let people know, get them involved as well. Every bit of Torah that they learn after they join, accrues for you and yours. And may that zechut allow us to be healthy, wealthy, wise, but most of all, happy with how healthy, wealthy, and wise we are. Alamak.